I have had this thought for a while and I've been mulling over it, and it's a thought that is maybe marginally original. You know, the kind of thought that you have and go, yeah, this is probably breathtaking, and then say it out loud and go, oh wow, almost everyone should know this, never mind. But you know what? This is Warhammer, where we repeat the same 3 memes over and over again. A marginally original thought in this community is breathtaking, isn't it? And yes, I'm guilty of this too. As much as I know that logically they're nothing but beating a very dead horse, I still enjoy seeing shovel memes every now and then. Not 500 of them at once, like normal, mind you, but you know, every now and then a Krieger haha funny Kaiser shotgun shovel meme ain't so bad. So with that in mind, let's talk Primarchs. Now if you don't know what a Primarch is, then hot damn you must be real new to 40k. But hey, I've always envisioned this channel as being for people just like you, and even if you're not new, maybe I can get a chuckle out of you. So to explain, Primarchs are the test tube babies of the Emperor of Mankind. Originally, he wanted the immortal Perpetuals to be his generals, then every single one of them abandoned him because they disagreed with his vision for humanity. While most people would maybe take this as a sign that they should rethink their approach to things, the Emperor is not most people. So he decided he'd create 21 superhero demigods of war and more to lead his armies across the galaxy. He had the last Perpetual, who was standing by him, Erda, be the mother of the Primarchs. GW unfortunately has yet to release the extended cut of Master of Mankind, where he and Erda go at it like rabbits in heat for 3 chapters straight, but until then, let's just assume they used magical science to create the Primarchs. As babies, they got thrown around the warp by the Chaos Gods and/or Erda herself. 2 of them did something so bad they'll never be seen or heard about again. 9 or maybe 10 of them decided that their dad sucks and tried to kill him, and 9 or maybe 10 of them decided that if nothing else, the Imperium is better than hell. You want more details than that? I don't feel like it, and every time I jump into specifics, it becomes a game of which theory about their origins do you believe in? Maybe they're shards of his personality given form, maybe they're minor warp gods he captured, maybe it's both, or maybe it's neither. I don't know, and it isn't relevant to my points yet, so we're just gonna leave it be. Also, I just don't care. Most of them have been gone for 10,000 years in-universe, and a large majority of the game's existence in real life. They were these mythical, larger-than-life figures whose actions shaped the galaxy but rarely, if ever, made appearances any longer. Every now and again some of them did, like Angron or Mortarion, but a lot of the time they just fucked off to do their own thing. The Chaos Primarchs spent more and more time in the warp serving the respective gods, and the loyalist ones had either been killed, vanished, or were taking one of those naps that look like they're never gonna end. Looking at you, Lion and Guilliman. But then some special somethings happened. One, the Horus Heresy started and people got really interested in these demigods, more so than they already were, that is. And 2, Magnus the Red showed back up, and oh boy is he something special. You want the end-all be-all of psychic cheese on the tabletop? Because that's him. Surely enough, more and more Primarchs followed suit. Gilliman woke up from his own forever nap, Mortarion stopped coughing and moping over Kaldor Drago handing him his ass to get back in the game, Angron came back to the applause of people who love the taste of Elmer's glue, and most recently the Lion himself is done with his forever nap. Primarchs as far as the eye can see. And there's no way we're done getting them, because the Demon Primarchs haven't actually died or anything like that, and several of the loyalist ones were gotten rid of in ways that couldn't be implying they'll return any harder. But is that a good thing? Do these bastards have any right to be coming back, or should they stay gone forever? That's right, everyone. 2.5 pages of scripting later, and I finally asked the question I posed in the title of the video. Man, I'm professional. Now, to once again sidetrack into something I promise is actually related, I feel like there's 2 different fields we should look at for this question: tabletop and lore. As you can probably expect, the pros and cons for those 2 sections are going to vary wildly. In fact, now that I'm writing this out, I realize that this video could very well have been titled Do or Don't Return the Primarchs or something like that. That's probably a better video than the one I'm going with. Oh well, it's too late to change it now. I've written all of these pages of script already. What am I supposed to do? Alter it because I had a better idea? Do I look like someone with integrity? Anyways, as normal, let's start out with the lore positives of the Primarchs coming back. First positive, let's not kid ourselves, it's always hype as shit when one of them returns. Gilliman's my favorite, so he'll be my example. After a 10,000-year coma, the Son of God reawakens, grabs his dad's sword, and just goes to town on some of the most threatening super soldiers in all the galaxy. Not even like a knife through butter, 0 resistance from the enemy. After that, he immediately goes crusade time and starts pounding people into the dirt. I mean, I'm an Eldar fan, and I gotta admit, that's peak Warhammer right there. Plus, them coming back is inherently awesome by virtue of what they are. There's less than 20 that realistically could come back, and they're each unique, and by the sheer nature of them being the sons of God, there's a certain amount of fanfare that'll always be present. Another point in favor is that, at least to me, I feel like there's always a bit of empty space by at least a few of them not returning. This is more specific to the traitor side of things. Like, the Demon Primarchs are all there, we know they exist, they've been sitting inside the warp for 10,000 years. Having them just all have collectively decided we're done with reality now is kinda weird, and restricting them to the background feels at least partially like wasted potential. Here's this crazy powerful dude with the soul of a demon inside of him due to mistakes from ages past. What's he doing? A whole lot of nothing. The loyalist Primarchs I feel this mostly applies to are already back, them being the Lion and Guilliman. A nap, after all, is kind of a lame reason for someone to be gone, even if the nap was helped by a bit of poison for one of them. Another lore positive is that, at least in theory, they all have the potential to cause great change in the setting. They can help fix the Imperium up and get some great strides towards its former glory going, or help finally break the damnable thing apart like it should have done thousands of years ago. This applies equally to the Chaos and Loyalist ones, I should mention. You never know what sort of disagreements the Loyalist ones might have, especially now that the Lion and Guilliman are sharing the galaxy once more. And the Chaos ones, I mean, it's obvious how they'll affect the Imperium. They'll affect it in the same way the Great Fire affected the city of Chicago. You want more positives for the lore? I'm struggling, which probably reveals what camp I'm in, to be honest, but I can try. A Primarch returning is always a nice contrast in a couple of ways. On the one hand, it shows just how goddamn strong mankind used to be. Once upon a time, mankind was creating these demigods of war, wielding weapons and armor leaps and bounds past what anyone else is using nowadays. And on the other hand, they can still bring home the Grimdark. The Horus Heresy was a real pisser, and even before that, the Great Crusade was already little more than a glimmering facade for the galaxy's worst dictatorship. But it was better than the Imperium is nowadays. Not by much, but it's something. Showing them just how far the Imperium has fallen, even from its already pretty low heights, can be a good way to showcase just how badly the 41st millennium sucks. Or 42nd millennium, whatever year it is, who gives a damn. And for a nice bridge between tabletop and lore positives, we have something that feels like poison coming out of my mouth to say. I think it's only fair at this point that at least a couple more of them come back. I mean, let's think about it. Chaos has 3 Primarchs on the tabletop right now, and the Imperium only has 2. I think they should have their equivalents, you know? It's like giving one child their entire Christmas list and more, and only giving the other one half of theirs. Doesn't quite feel right. And even ignoring that, let's look at Chaos specifically. You got 3 of the gods having their own Primarch right now, and yet Slaanesh fans are left hanging, and Chaos Undivided fans at that. While saying it's only fair that the Imperium and Chaos get more stuff hurts me on a spiritual level, I do think at this point you should give everyone their special toys. Of course, the Xenos should therefore get their own equivalents to each Primarch, but that'd require GW remembering they exist. Now, to move on to purely tabletop positives, from the purpose of giving everyone more toys, it makes sense to bring them back. If you don't care about the lore, or at least prioritize tabletop over lore, I think it's far more balanced in favor of bringing the Primarchs back than keeping them out of the setting. I mean, you get more goodies. More stuff on the tabletop is generally a good thing, especially when it's something as huge as a Primarch. You can have Primarch on Primarch matches on the tabletop, and if you like narrative-style games, then you can even double down as a lore positive here as well. Come on, who doesn't want to see a game where Angron and the Lion duke it out on the tabletop? Hell, you get some other players in and you can do some crazy shit. Have a match where Angron and Mortarion team up while the Lion and Ghazghkull race to see who can either destroy their traitorous brother or avenge their best commissarial buddy first. Tell me that doesn't sound at least a little bit awesome. And of course, while initially balancing them can be a huge pain in the ass, it can be offset by the fact that they're a hugely expensive part of the army. I mean, Guilliman alone is 300 points and Magnus is 420. These bastards are going to be a huge part of your army, if not the keystone, so countering them can be a lot easier than you think. So I don't think bringing them in is inherently a balance killer by any means, since Warhammer uses points. It's the same reason that Titans existing as options to take don't instantly throw the game completely out of whack. That and the fact they can cost more than a month's rent. Plus, and this isn't exactly a mind-breaker point here, they all look cool, to the point that even if you don't like Space Marines or the Imperium, you gotta admit that the models are kick-ass. And at least personally, I think they get a pass on the usual GW tendency to over-design things to hell and back because of what they are. In this setting, the Sons of God should be dripped the hell out. That's not even getting into the conversions you can do with them. But I can only speak positively for so long about the Astartes and the absent fathers. The Eldar army will start tearing its way out if I do. If you haven't already noticed, I'll just make sure you know that this is all my opinion. But especially now, since I'm going to be explaining the way I view Warhammer and the Imperium's role within it. So just to be clear, my opinion, not fact, how I view the setting. So, why wouldn't someone want the Primarchs to return? Several reasons, and lore first as always. One is that they kind of go against one of the setting's key features, the Imperium being a dying empire. The era before the current one was the time of ending. The threats against it were growing ever greater, from orcs to the Necrons and Tyranids to chaos. Rebellions were pretty much constant, and the states that weren't actively breaking away were gaining more and more autonomy until they were basically their own, assuming they weren't actively worshipping chaos. And then along come the Primarchs. Guilliman is making sure everything is getting all better instead of actively breaking down, and I'm sure the Lion is going to start emptying entire sectors of all potential threats soon. While the setting is still screwed, it doesn't feel completely screwed anymore, if you catch my drift. I mean, things like scientific advancement are actually coming back. Now, on the one hand, things can only get so much worse before people get tired of it, see the end times. And there is very much in-universe pushback against some of the newer creations that have been coming out. But still, look at what GW's been pushing front and center. The Sons of God coming back to save everyone with brand spanking new super soldiers that are in every single way better than the previous ones. That doesn't feel like something a dying empire should be doing. Of course, that issue mainly affects the Imperium, but you know what affects every faction a Primarch comes back to? The fact that they're black holes of attention. Once they're back, people wonder what they're doing beyond all others. By their nature as the defining member and indeed source of each Space Marine Legion, they kind of become the most interesting parts of the setting, or at least the most eye-catching. Would you rather see what the head of the chapter or legion or whatever is doing, or some random scumblefuck marine in terms of the plot at large? I imagine it's mostly going to be the former, though I assume half the comment section is going to be arguing this point. Opinions are all well and good, of course, but dunking on the content creator overrules all else. Same goes for Chaos, as I said. Sure, in individual books you may prefer to see what Aramin or someone else is doing, but in the grand scheme of the setting, he can go to hell. I want to see what Magnus is up to. He's bigger, better, and more powerful. He's the guy we want to go to when the galaxy-shaking events are occurring. And on the flip side, if they don't end up doing anything, then people will go, X-Primarch came back and he wasn't involved in this massive conflict? That's bullshit. Which is understandable, but also sort of underlines my point that they draw everything around themselves at the expense of everyone else. They're attention hogs, those Primarchs. Them returning also ruins their mysticism as these legendary heroes of old. The Horus Heresy has already done a fine job of ruining the mystique these guys had, with various books revealing that the entire thing only happened because half the Primarchs took off their thinking caps and started chugging liquid stupid. But you know, there's still all the time after that we had to ponder how these legends may have changed or what they've been up to. Or hell, even just debate what would happen if they come back. But now we know. We know almost exactly what they've been up to and how they view the world, and it takes away the mystery. They go from mythical heroes to some dude that just happens to be noticeably taller than everyone else. That's no fun. Admittedly, on this point, I am somewhat torn because the history major in me wants to know every single goddamn detail down to troop deployments during the 5th month of the 124th year of the Great Crusade. But narratively, I think the Primarchs coming back does take something major away from the setting. And as a good branch into the tabletop flaws, the Primarchs coming back means that yet again, the Xenos players are going to be left in the dust. You might say, but the Xenos all have their equivalents to a Primarch. Yep, they sure do. One each army. Tyranids have the Swarm Lord, the Orcs have Gazi, and the Eldar have Kane. And I guess Farsight is sort of the Tau equivalent, kinda. To be as generous as possible, let's assume that's the case. One each, for Chaos is 3 and the Imperium's 2, and both of those numbers are pretty much guaranteed to keep climbing. And no, I'm very intentionally not counting the Phoenix Lords. In theory they're equal, but look me in the eye and say something like any of the Phoenix Lords are treated with the same amount of respect as a Primarch, either on the tabletop or in the lore. If some random Space Marine kills a Phoenix Lord, everyone would cheer, but if some Aspect Warrior or even an Exarch killed a Primarch, even if the bastard came back, people would have 10 million different reasons as to why it's bullshit. They are not equals. I will continue to bitch about the Eldar not being given fair treatment until the sun goes dark, by the way, as I'm sure you all expect at this point. For purely tabletop reasons, I have less of those because I am in favor of them coming back as playable minis if nothing else. But initial balancing could be a bit of a pain. It could fairly easily be the case where one of them is either completely busted or almost completely worthless, either due to some poorly thought out rule or them being poorly priced in one way or the other. I don't think this would last very long, but it could still be a pain for a few months. And if nothing else, when something is new, no one really knows how to completely deal with it because it's new. It's like when a new character drops in For Honor or Dead by Daylight. They're automatically pay-to-win bullshit because no one is used to them yet. It's only after a few weeks or even months that we can really tell if they're pay-to-win bullshit or not. I don't actually remember if For Honor characters were free, to be honest with you. And yeah, I guess you can actually earn the characters in Dead by Daylight, as long as they're not one of the licensable ones. But if there's one thing I love more than bitching about Warhammer, it's bitching about Dead by Daylight. If you main Leatherface, even if you don't have a pair, I hope you get testicular torsion. Alright, rant over, back to the Primarchs. Something that can also be an issue is them causing a lack of variety on the tabletop. While this will likely also balance out after a few months as the meta changes, at least initially, I can almost guarantee you every motherfucker running Dark Angels is gonna have the Lion at the tabletop. and that gets boring. That's really all there is to this point. Variety is the spice of life, and every other army running a Primarch would be boring to see. And for the grand finale, what does my oh-so-important opinion say about the matter? Even if none of them had come back in the lore, I still would have wanted that. More stuff on the tabletop is good, in my eyes. If you think it's weird that a character has a playable mini without being around the lore anymore, remember that Warhammer has precedent with that. Graum the Paunch was dead for centuries by modern fantasy, but he had a playable mini. But while this sort of thing definitely can't happen anymore, I wish they never returned the lore at all. For all the reasons I listed above, I think they hurt the setting more than they help it if they're part of the narrative. But hey, this is another opinion piece video. What do you think? Is it good they come back? Bad? In the middle? Do you completely agree with me? Kinda, but have some other points to make? Let me know, because it boosts me in the algorithm. You fell for it, idiots. This whole thing was a cunning trap to make me appear more often in people's recommendations. No, but seriously, for real, I want to know what you think. As always, thank you to my wonderful channel members. You are the Primarchs to my 40k, an integral part of this channel. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching, and take care out there. I wish I was Yvraine. Then I could have sex with Gilliman.